The injury concerns with Lamar Jackson are growing in Baltimore after the quarterback has missed not one, but now two consecutive practices this week. We talk about the situation. Marcus Williams finally spoke on his drama. We talk about that and so much more coming up next here on this Purple Friday edition of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here, as always, making Locked On Ravens your first listen of the day and a part of your day in general, free and available for you all podcasting platforms, including in video form on YouTube, where we just hit 9,000 subscribers. So appreciate everybody for the support on the channel and YouTube. You can, again, subscribe, follow along, like the video. Also in audio form, you can follow along and subscribe there as well. Really appreciate the audio community. We bring you 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. And today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Here with me today, it is our Purple Friday guest from the Ravens Talk podcast. It is Sam Njoku. Sam, happy November. Kind of crazy to even say that right now, considering feels like the season started yesterday. We're just getting back into the swing of things. And now, once this Denver game is done, we're about to be more than halfway through this season.
I'm not looking forward to it. I love football so much, and it's already almost over. I mean, geez, as soon as you get it, the sooner it leaves you. So definitely enjoy this moment if you're a Ravens fan, because a couple of months is going to be gone.
Yeah, and again, the not necessarily a game to enjoy on Sunday against Cleveland. I know that was one that I think a lot of people would love to just wipe from the memory bank and forget about. But we move on. The Ravens have Denver coming up in week number 9. But it is to be determined whether their star quarterback will actually be out there for that game. Now, hand up here. John Harbaugh said it was a rest day on Wednesday. And I said, no, John Harbaugh said it's a rest day. All right, it's a rest day. I believe John Harbaugh with the injury stuff. And we know that, John Harbaugh can be not only very tight to the vest, but we know that the Ravens love their competitive advantages. And so one rest day, Sam, you're thinking, yeah, okay, right, that makes sense. The Ravens do have a short turnaround. They have a game in a week against the Cincinnati Bengals. But then he misses practice again yesterday, obviously still listed on the injury report with those back and knee issues. And you're thinking, okay, well, 2 rest days, that doesn't really happen for the most part. And so I'm sure Lamar's feeling sore, and today's practice on Friday will probably tell us a lot about whether Lamar is actually going to play or not. But for you, how concerned are you with this situation? Or are you just in kind of wait and see mode right now?
I'm in kind of wait and see mode. I think there's a little bit of fibbing going on in regards to being necessarily a rest day. I mean, it kind of is a rest day. He's probably sore. His back is probably sore. His knees are probably sore from all the hits he took last week. So I can see them resting him because of that short week, like you mentioned. But there's definitely an injury there. I'm not sure if it's a substantial injury. I'm not sure if it's like a bruised knee or a bruised back. But I could say that he's probably sore enough where they probably thought it's best to rest him prior to the game. Friday will tell me a lot about his availability. Usually Friday's practices aren't too heavy. So if I don't see him out there on Friday, then I know there's something amiss. But I would say be optimistic about his availability on Sunday. From what I heard, he was still in the locker room and dubious and talking with the other players. So I would say that he likely plays, but something to watch for sure.
Yeah, again, seems like at this point, not something to be overly worried about, but I think more worried about than Wednesday is certainly, that's fair, because I'm that way too, where it's like, all right, if he was back on Thursday, nobody's talking about it. I'm like, yeah, of course it was a rest day. But I think there probably now is a little more going on than just, it was just resting. And yeah. I think too, Sam, Lamar doesn't need to practice to play at this point. Like, obviously he can miss these reps and still be good to go. Obviously Deontay Johnson now in the fold. So sure, it'd be great if they could get some early work going between the two. But if they want to heal up Lamar and, even if he does miss Friday, which I don't think would be a good sign, I want to put that out there. But even if he does, there's still a shot that he would be able to play on Sunday. And I think Baltimore just lists him as questionable game time decision right up to it to have that competitive advantage. Now, obviously, if Lamar can't go, it would be Josh Johnson, and that obviously kind of lowers the floor and the ceiling of your offense quite substantially, especially, and we'll talk about it, against the Denver defense, which is playing just lights out football right now. But to you, if there is like soreness with the back, soreness with the knee, are you worried about maybe it affecting Lamar's overall play? Or do you think that, that's the type of stuff that Lamar can play through and we've seen him play through before?
I think he can play through it. I don't think it's as serious as something where you might need to be cautious moving forward as far as his ability to, scramble from the pocket or make those type of throws. So I'm not too worried about it. I do think that over time you'll probably see the Ravens coaching staff take this approach. They do that with their veteran players a lot. They give them the day off on Wednesday. I think because of that short week, you probably got an extra day of rest. That would be my assumption. Don't know for sure, but we'll find out on Friday. I think that the Ravens need to do their due diligence with keeping this guy healthy, though, because without Lamar Jackson, this team completely falls apart. We know how the defense is performing right now. And this offense, even though Derrick Henry has been a great addition, this offense goes and stops with Lamar Jackson. If number 8's not healthy or available, then there's trouble brewing for the Ravens.
Yep, and I think maybe this isn't the best example to use, but it is certainly an example to use. That 4th and 1 play where Lamar is off to the side and Derrick Henry gets the ball. Lamar Jackson being Lamar Jackson, the best part of that is he's Lamar Jackson. And the fact that he has that gravity to him, look, Josh Johnson just doesn't have that. Nowhere close. So the thing with the when Josh Johnson or Tyler Huntley, for example, had to step in for Lamar, the defense was good enough to where like Tyler Huntley could put up 16 points and the Ravens still win that game 16-14, or you could put up 14 points and then win 14-10.
Right.
That's not the way this defense has been operating this season. And that's why I think for a lot of people, it's like, okay, well, of course the offensive floor and ceiling lowers if Lamar's not out there, but this defense, the way it is and the way it's playing right now, just doesn't seem to have the horsepower to carry the offense like it has in years past.
Yeah, not at all. And I think that's a testament to Lamar Jackson's magic and the problem that the other 32 teams have. I mean, you got Patrick Mahomes, you got Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels is kind of creeping to that category where your offense, your team goes and stops with their quarterback. And unfortunately, that's how it is with the Ravens. You don't want Josh Johnson out there on Sundays, especially against a Broncos defense that looks pretty stout. So we'll see what happens. I don't think that is much to worry about, but there should be some concern if you're a Ravens fan, because if they're arresting him, it's because he's pretty beat up, and it's hard to imagine that he wouldn't be beat up after him having to carry this team to victory after victory and coming close to doing it again this past Sunday.
Yeah, putting the Superman cape on, and part of the reason you bring in Derrick Henry is to kind of alleviate that, and he has, right? I'm not saying Henry hasn't done that this season, but I think Lamar's had to put it on more than we had hoped because the defense obviously has put this team in some not so great situations this season. So again, we're recording this on Thursday night for Friday. So we don't know if Lamar has practiced on Friday yet. I would love to look in the future and see if he has or not, but we're just not there yet. So Friday, I agree with you, Sam, that will tell us a lot about Lamar's availability for Sunday. So I'm not like overly concerned, but I'm definitely more concerned than I was on Wednesday here. But we know, Sam, that Lamar in the quarterback position, not the only position the Ravens are dealing with some injuries at, because on the defensive line, I don't know, Sam, if you're ready to suit up with me this weekend on the D line, because it's about to be you and me who's going out there. Yeah, we're going out there. We're playing some football for the Baltimore Ravens this weekend because looks like a lot of their other defensive linemen are not going to be able to. You have Travis Jones, who hasn't practiced these last couple of days with his ankle injury. He just has not looked the same since getting injured on the field. Obviously, Michael Pierce is now on injured reserve. Brent Urban did not practice for the second consecutive day with a concussion on Thursday. And you have Broderick Washington, who went from a limited session on Wednesday to a full no-go on Thursday. So the only healthy, active member of their defensive line right now is Nnamdi Madubuike. And then I guess if everybody doesn't play, it's going to be Chris Wormley from the practice squad, Josh Duopo, who they just signed. I mean, are they going to kick guys inside like Tavius Robinson? Patrick Ricard, they're going to throw him back out there on the D-line. Like, Sam, this is not a good situation for the Ravens on the interior. And honestly, it could maybe influence how they approach the trade deadline if things don't get any better there.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think going into the season, we talked about how the Ravens didn't really have much depth at the interior line. In fact, there were some games that you're only bringing out 4 guys to suit up. And we thought if there was an injury that this could happen. And now we're seeing multiple interior defensive linemen injured with ankle injuries, concussions, what have you. So the Ravens are reeling right now in that regard. And of course, they have the number 1 run defense and a pretty bad pass defense. So a lot of teams probably going to this game one to throw the football. But we saw in that Browns game how they tried to get things going with Nick Chubb once those injured D linemen started to rear their heads. And the Ravens don't want to be in that situation moving forward, especially with the defense's porous on the passing side of things. If they can't get things together on the rushing side of things because of their inability to suit guys up, it appears, then they're in really a dangerous spot. So you're right. I think the Ravens may be considering bringing in some outside help. They brought in some guys in the practice squad who I'm sure will have to suit up if these injuries remain the way they are. And we'll see. But yeah, this interior line is definitely a cause of concern. Hopefully they get better. I mean, after this upcoming Thursday night game, they get 10 days to rest up before the next game. So maybe they did consider it, let's pause a little bit and bring the practice squad guys in and hope for the best. But yeah, this interior line is looking kind of weak, kind of injured.
And it's so unfortunate because we know, Sam, how devastating interior pressure can be for opposing offenses, especially when those defensive linemen can win so quickly and so hard. I mean, it's part of what made 2023's defense so historic for the Ravens. Yeah. They continued to get that for the entirety of the year, but now you're so beat up on the interior. Your outside guys really aren't giving you much right now, and it just seems like, and especially on Sunday against Cleveland, Jameis Winston had all day to throw that football. And that's a Cleveland team that did get Wyatt Teller back, but they've been rotating offensive linemen in for the majority of their season. So, of course, that's pretty concerning. And my favorite thing from that game on Sunday really wasn't it was my favorite because it was so funny that it wasn't funny. But Jameis had like 5 seconds to throw. I don't know if you saw that like next gen stat bubble graphic thing. Jameis had 5 seconds to throw in the red zone. Just threw it directly to Eddie Jackson after having all this time. And of course, Eddie just dropped that thing. So, yep, bad day for the Ravens secondary, although they are getting healthier there. It looks like Marlon Humphrey had his second limited practice of the day on Thursday. Nate Wiggins went from limited to full Wednesday to Thursday. And Arthur Millette returned to practice. He didn't participate on Wednesday. He was a full go on Thursday. So at least it seems like they're getting some bodies back. But of course, the play has to be a little bit better. But we now have some comments from Marcus Williams on his drama that ensued over the course of Sunday. So coming up, we'll get into what he said on his situation and just get into some general secondary talk because this team needs some help in that regard too. So be sure to stay tuned. Lots to get to here on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by Game Time. The hype and atmosphere of watching basketball live is awesome. You got celebrity sightings, the sounds from the court, and the feel of the crowd. And for me, being a Denver Nuggets guy, when they're in the DC area, I try to go and see them whenever I can. I'm looking forward to doing that in the future. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Plus, Game Time has tickets for all events, concerts, shows, not just sports. And obviously for the Ravens and Broncos, Ravens play at home. If you want to see if you can find tickets for that game and seats, be sure to go on Game Time Picks. They have super deals and other tiers of deals. Plus, the Game Time app has a ton of great features, including Game Time Picks, seat views, lowest price guarantee, Game Time ticket coverage, and so much more. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off first purchase. So on this podcast, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON NFL, spelled LOCKED1 NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. And the show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing second overtime, which is why they've created the Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel. The energy shot made just for super fans like you, the fans who were first in the parking lot and who were last to leave. We see you. You know what gives me a bit of Ravens fan feel this week? The moment when the Ravens traded for Deontay Johnson. Obviously, a big move for Baltimore, and trades always just get me excited personally. So 5 Hour Energy knows no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with a 5 Hour Energy. Available on 5hourenergy.com. Shipped nationwide. We are back with our second segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher and Sam Njoku still here with you on this Purple Friday edition of the show. Again, I appreciate everybody for being here today, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day, your first listen of the day. Again, hit 9,000 subscribers on YouTube. Obviously, the next goal is 10,000. And Sam, I don't know if you know, like the classic, like Dixie cup pattern, like the purple and the blue. Do you know the first day. You don't know that? So it's
No.
like this. It's a blue and purple pattern on like one of those plastic styrofoam cups. And so the first day I started this channel back in 2021, when we started doing YouTube, I said that day, when we hit 10,000 subscribers, I will wear a full outfit of this purple and blue pattern for a week straight.
Oh no.
So now we are 1,000 away from that. And man, I'm ready. I'm so ready to do it. So, hey, if you want to see me do that, be sure to hit like and subscribe. Also in audio form, of course, you can follow along, subscribe over there. Appreciate the audio community as well. Sam, I want to start with the Marcus Williams drama with you here, though. Just everything leading up to this moment, because obviously we know Marcus didn't play well before. He didn't play on Sunday. We knew that he needed to be better. And then all of a sudden he's active, but not even playing in this game. Everybody's wondering, well, what's going on? Did they make a change personnel-wise? And John Harbaugh called it a personnel decision, but also said that it's something they're keeping in-house. It's internal. Whenever you hear those phrases, those words, it's usually never good. Usually something drama-wise has happened, or, there was some argument, disagreement, whatever you want to call it. I mean, how crazy has this been just watching it unfold for you? Because we really don't hear about these situations all that often with this organization.
Yeah, and usually when it happens, I know about it. And, sometimes I divulge it, sometimes I don't. Usually I don't divulge it. I have no idea what the situation is with Marcus Williams. So they're keeping it tight. And they're keeping it tight. It's not that great. So my thought process is probably deal with his play. Maybe they had some disagreements as far as how he's performing, and maybe they butted heads a little bit. But, Marcus Williams has struggled a little bit. I mean, I was not too worried about the addition of Ardarius Washington taking his place. I thought that it was a good move. But my thing is, why take him out the field completely? He only sometimes has issues with the tracking of the ball. I think he's one of the better safeties that the Ravens have. And you're paying this guy $70 million to be that safety. So I'm very curious what it is. I don't know. I probably wouldn't be able to share it if I didn't know, because of the various sources that I have. But I have no idea what the issue is, which means it's pretty juicy. If you're a Ravens fan in the drama, I'm sure that you're interested in it. But, no one's been able to find out what exactly the issue is. But from what I'm hearing, it looks like they're coming to a resolution, which is good for the Ravens.
Yeah, and I think for Marcus, Sam, his mistakes, when they happen, are just very loud. They're very loud mistakes. And so while he's not messing up on every single play, and like he has had some positives this season, he's made a lot of very loud mistakes that have resulted in huge plays, resulted in touchdowns. And it obviously brings his grades down on whatever sites you use, or just in general when you do the eye test. It's like, okay, well, this guy's giving up touchdowns left and right. Like, what's going on here? But Marcus actually spoke on his situation. He declined media comment on Wednesday. He decided to speak to the media on Thursday, and ended up just saying, look, it's about moving forward this weekend, staying prepared. When I'm ready to go in, it's my time. I'll do whatever I got to do to make plays. And really just saying, look, he's looking forward. And he said, quote, "I faced adversity all my life. It's nothing new to me. Adversity makes you or breaks you. It's how you react, how you come out and act like a pro and do all you've got to do to move on." And John Harbaugh kind of said yesterday, oh, Marcus had a great day of practice. Really excited for Marcus. Looking forward to seeing what Marcus is doing. It's just like all these weird, like mixed messages about like, okay, you didn't play the guy. You didn't even make him inactive. You had him active and sent a message. You didn't play him. And now you're like, oh, I love Marcus. Like Marcus is going to be great. Like, okay. And I'm like, all right, we have so many different twists and turns in this situation. And now Marcus is saying, well, look, I mean, based off of these comments, it seems like he is taking this as adversity and a situation that he has had to kind of work through. And that kind of tells me something definitely went on behind the scenes. We don't really know what it is. And I just don't know, like, is he going to have a reduced role for the rest of the season? They can't even really afford that because they don't have anybody to put in that role. Eddie Jackson was, I called it, Sam, and I don't like say this stuff lightly. It was one of the worst games I've ever seen from a secondary member in Ravens history. And like, again, you only say that when like it's apparent, but you have multiple dropped interceptions, multiple blown coverages. Apparently, I don't even know if this is true. He was like attacking fans after the game, like on social media.
Wow.
Like that came out.
I did hear that.
So like very bad Eddie Jackson game. So I was like, okay, Marcus isn't playing well. Well, the guy behind him is even worse. So you just have to kind of work through it at this point. How do you kind of envision Marcus's role being? And honestly, I don't even know if there's an answer for it because the situation is just, it's so unprecedented.
I think we'll find out this Sunday. If the Ravens do play him, then you know that it probably was a one-off thing, maybe a little bit of a butting heads. But I know the John Harbaugh doghouse. I have seen a plethora of players enter that doghouse and few get out. So when I hear John Harbaugh say, "Oh, he had a good day of practice," I've heard that about a lot of players he's had in the doghouse that didn't see any playing time. So I would not take John Harbaugh's words for anything. I think what we see from Marcus Williams is a guy who's trying to get back in the good graces of his coaching staff, trying to relay the message to maybe to the other 31 teams out there that he's a team player. He's going to do whatever he has to do to get the job done. So all of that's in my head when I listen to these comments. It'll be interesting to see what he does on game day. If he's active, if he plays, then that's telling me this is a bit of nothing. But if he doesn't play again, then I know something's a brewing and there's more to it than initially meets the eye.
Yeah, and look, again, just making him active and not playing him.
Crazy.
I mean, you could at least make him inactive and get a guy up that can help you, even on special teams, which Ravens special teams was terrible on Sunday. Like, even just play Marcus on special teams with that, like, put him on kickoff or something. Like, I don't know. It felt very like we're going to send this message for a week so like, this is not whatever it was. This is not going to happen. And then, maybe next week. But I don't know. It's so crazy.
Or it could be that whatever happened after the list of inactives already came out. It could have been happening between the 90-minute mark before the game started. So something to consider there. I don't think the Ravens would be the type of team to just not play a guy and just leave a spot open. I would think they'd inactivate him, if anything. So just a little more to the puzzle that I'm trying to work through. And I'm working very hard to find something. I'm usually good at it, but I've heard nothing. So we'll see.
No, I had not thought of that. That is a very good point because you're right. I feel the Ravens usually are an organization that's like, we're going to send a message at the expense of our team.
Of winning. Right.
And of winning. Exactly. So that's interesting. I did not think of that. So that could be a really realistic option to maybe why things played out the way that they did. But we know, Sam, the secondary, the way things have played out for that group of just, it's not been good. And you and I have said, look, the talent in this secondary, we don't necessarily think that's the issue, but the play certainly is. I mean, Marlon is having a great year. Brandon Stevens has had his ups and downs, still can't necessarily turn his head for the ball, but, he's sticking with guys. Nate Wiggins is, learning the ups and downs of being a guy in the NFL. Kyle Hamilton started the year slow, has been great outside of obviously the dropped interception we do not speak of. And then, Marcus has been Marcus, but what's your concern level with this group? Because we are now going to be more than 2 months into the season. We're not just sitting here, first couple of weeks, they can fix these things up. It's just, maybe a 1 or 2 off thing. Now, this has been like the entire season, and it has not been good.
One thing I will say about this team, at least for the Browns game, is there wasn't a lot of blown coverages. There wasn't a lot of miscommunication. I know the Ravens are working on simplifying things. But in regards to actually knowing where to be prior to the snap, except for those few instances where the Browns were able to snap the ball prior to them getting set. For the most part, the Ravens played pretty sound defense. They were just getting beat. And I think a lot of it has to do with the pass rush. We talked about it with Travis Jones being injured and maybe Madubuike being really the only solid option as far as pass rush, and teams are double and triple teaming him and forcing Odafe Owe and company to get the job done. So I'm not as concerned with the personnel on the secondary, save for maybe a safety or two for the Ravens. I think Eddie Jackson has definitely, the talent drops after Darius Washington, Kyle Hamilton, and Marcus Williams. Eddie Jackson, I think the fourth safety is far below those other three. But other than that, I don't think they need much secondary help. I would love to see the Ravens bring in an interior pass rusher or an edge rusher to help out this team. They have to get pressure on the quarterback. These quarterbacks are having all day to throw the football, and it's really put a hindrance on the performance of the secondary. So I know Marlon Humphrey didn't play, Nate Wiggins didn't play, and those two are pretty great defenders in their own right. So a lot of that led to the loss. But moving forward, you need a pass rush. You need to get to the quarterback, or it's going to be a lot of this for the next 9 weeks of the season.
Yeah, well, if you're going to say Marcus Williams didn't play, you're correct. He also did not play in the game. So all three of those guys did not play, and that's correct. It's three of your, going into the season at least, three of your top 5 defensive backs did not play in this game. Now, not all of them have played that way, but again, it's kind of crazy to think where we were looking at them before the season versus where we are now. But on the flip side of that, I want to put your film skills to the test, and you have so many of those, so many film skills. Is it the scheme? Is it miscommunications that is kind of doing this secondary in right now? Obviously, Zach Orr's been the big hot topic of conversation. So if you're saying that, look, secondary help's not really needed, these guys, the talent is there, Is it just the scheme and the system that's not it? Or why do you think the struggles have been the way that they have if it's not the personnel?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I think the Ravens into the season decided to upgrade their team. Like on offense, you've seen the upgrade from 2023 to 2024. And I think they tried to do the same on the defensive side of the ball. They tried to get a little more complex, tried to fool the quarterbacks a little bit more, a lot less of, okay, we're just going to beat you one-on-one, and more of, okay, we're going to have you thinking that extra second because we don't really trust our DBs to cover your guys or your pass rush to get there. And that, a lot of that led to miscommunication, not knowing where your guys are. Lately, the Ravens have been a little bit more simplistic, a little more based in their coverage. They are blitzing a lot more in that Browns game. I guess they just didn't respect Winston. I think they just decided, okay, we're going to send the house and dare you to beat our corners. And, of course, we saw how that went down. But for the most part, the last two games, I've seen a little bit more simplicity out of the team, a little more base style of defense. I think the Ravens still simulate pressure about the same as they did last year at McDonald. I think McDonald did a great job of creating simulated pressure. The Ravens are about the same in regards to starting it, showing high two safety and moving to that one, a single high safety look. So it's a little bit of the same. I just think that Jadeveon Clowney's absence is just glaring. I don't think it's much of Patrick Queen because I think it's comparable to what they're getting with Simpson. But I think that not having a pass rusher, Travis Jones still being injured, I think dealing with an ankle injury, a lot of that is rearing its ugly head and it's forcing the other guys, so Odafe Oweh and some of the corners and Brandon Stevens and Nate Wiggins to have to be that guy for an extra second, and it's not working out so far.
I'm not going to be blaming this all on the players, all on the coaching staff. I'm with you, Sam, right? It's both where, am I going to sit here and say, oh, Zach Orr's the entire problem? No, right? Of course not. Is it, oh, well, the players are the entire problem? No, of course not. But it's both. And when you look at it that way, look, multiple different things have to change. And, of course, they will have an opportunity to potentially add to their team before Tuesday's trade deadline. Coming up, though, we actually do have a trade to talk about with this Ravens team because Deontay Johnson, now a member of the organization, will get into his acquisition as well as how the Ravens match up with those Denver Broncos in Week 9. Stay tuned. Lots to get to on this episode of Locked On Ravens. First, this show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get 100 more of the game, you can check out the latest stats, live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste 100. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We are back, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher, Sam Njoku still here with you on this Friday, talking Ravens football. And Sam, I know a lot of people want that defensive acquisition. You've mentioned guys, edge rusher, interior guy, those positions. But it was wide receiver that was the first domino of potentially, hopefully more, to fall for the Ravens during this trade deadline season. That is Deontay Johnson coming over with a 6th-round pick attached to him for a 5th-round selection. Carolina also eating a lot of the remaining money of his salary. So Ravens only be on the hook for about $625,000 for the remainder of the year. I think when you look at it just in its own area, not with the defensive, oh, that's not a defensive player conversation in it, Deontay is a guy that is not going to take away snaps from Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers, but you feel a lot more confident in with your depth with him there as opposed to Nelson Aguilar as your 3. And especially if a guy like Flowers or Bateman goes down, and knock on wood, there it is, that does not happen. I think you feel a lot better with Deontay Johnson stepping into a more prominent role as opposed to the other depth options that you had. So what was your initial reaction when you heard the news? And did you think that Deontay Johnson was even on the Ravens' radar at all?
I had an idea that perhaps he'd be on the radar. I think a lot of guys were hoping for maybe a go-and-get-it guy, but I think the Ravens have really sold their selves on being that team that's getting separation, and I don't think there's a better receiver available in the league that gets separation better than Deontay Johnson. I like the move. I think the Ravens are really trying to be that 2 tight end, 3 tight end set type of team, but when you're in situations where you're down by a touchdown or more, you need to get in the field fast, and you need receivers who are able to get separation. I think Deontay Johnson can be that guy. I've also heard that he's possibly going to be in special teams and return game. That's a potential move for him. And something that we heard Adam Schefter talk about, the Ravens are probably going to get a comp pick for this if they are unable to acquire Deontay Johnson next year. So they may get a pick that's even higher than the one they gave up for him, and they get a 6th-round draft pick. So I think this move is beautiful for the Ravens. I don't think it's that top-tier, huge move that many are expecting. I think something of that sort may need to happen and is yet to happen, but I think this is a solid move, and it shows that Eric DeCosta is always working. I mean, he's always working the phone lines, and I think based on what we saw the Panthers do to get him to Baltimore, it's more of a situation where the Panthers are just trying to get rid of him, and it's going to be up to Deontay Johnson to be that guy for the Ravens. He's going to have to prove himself because they do have 2 stalwart receivers. He used to be the wide receiver 1 over there. He's probably more like a 3, 4 in the depth chart as far as receiver goes, and he needs to build himself up to be that guy. But I like the move. I like his skill set, and I love the potential for what he can do for this offense.
Yeah, great separator, one of the best in the league. And now Baltimore has 3 elite separators on the same team, and that should help Lamar out tremendously. It's just, if the defense doesn't get shored up, at least the Ravens know that they maybe have a shot to just outscore a team 51-50, and they can just play those games for the majority of the season. But I know that there's been stuff made about Deontay's drop, Sam. That's more of a younger Deontay Johnson thing. Exactly. Obviously, those numbers have calmed down over the course of his career. But the big thing is he has expressed discontent multiple times. Obviously, his effort is called into question. There are multiple clips of him just not blocking whatsoever, giving up on plays that result in turnovers. That's the type of stuff. Apparently, he was not super happy, growing frustrated with Carolina's situation. So, look, it's up to him to be able to go out there, do his job, play his role. And I think we're in a different era now, Sam, than we were during the Greg Roman days, which was, all right, if you're not Mark Andrews or, a sprinkle of Marquise Brown or Zay Flowers, you're getting 2 targets a game. Lamar spreads this football around. There are going to be opportunities for Deontay. It's just a matter of him being content in what he is asked to do for this team. And initially, based off what he said in his first press conference, first media availability, he is certainly ready to do whatever the team asks of him. Now, we'll see if he actually plays in week 9. Based off of the trajectories we've seen with DeAndre Hopkins, Amari Cooper, I would say he has a shot to play this week, definitely. But now that the Ravens have Denver coming to town, we know it's that defense that is just absolutely vaunted. Number 1 pass defense in the league, number 5 rush defense in the league. Bo Nix has had up and downs this season, but has looked great when he looks on. How do you think Baltimore matches up with Denver? Because I think going into the season, Sam, everybody looked at this game, was like, okay, this is going to be an easy Baltimore win. No sweat game. But now, Denver has the same record Baltimore does, and maybe that works in Baltimore's favor based off of how they play bad teams.
Yeah, 9.5 points is what the Vegas is putting out there. That's a lot. That's a lot for a defense of Denver's caliber. I am definitely concerned with what this defense is able to do. I think they can mimic a lot of what the Browns were able to do. I don't think the Browns had a ton of success against the Ravens offense, but they had enough where they were able to slow it down, especially in the early goings of the game. I think that this team matches up very well against the Ravens. Now, if the Ravens are able to get Marlon Humphrey back, able to get Nick Wiggins back, if they're able to figure out their safety situation, I think a lot less Eddie Jackson will be preferable, a lot more Darius Washington, Marcus Williams. I think they have a chance to match up well with Bo Nix. Bo Nix did play well against the Panthers, but there's a reason why Deontay Johnson went out of there. I think the Panthers aren't anything to worry about, but I can't really knock any defense with the way the Ravens defense has performed. Zachary Orr talked about on Thursday how he's trying to simplify things, and they have a plan in place to kind of simplify things on defense, so they're not really in a situation where they're out of position prior to the snap. So all those things lean heavily to the Ravens probably getting the job done, but I would be cautious if you're a Ravens fan. If you're too optimistic about this game, I think the Broncos definitely match up well against the Ravens, and it'll be up to the Ravens defense once again to get the job done. I think the offense does enough, but can you really count on the Ravens to put up 30 points every game? We saw what happened when the Ravens weren't able to do it in week 8. So in week 9, I think it'll be more of the same. The Ravens will need to put up 30 points, and if they don't, put so much pressure on the defense that has struggled all season long.
Yeah, just take some pressure off of Lamar here. I think that's what you need. You can't expect this offense to score 30 every game, despite how high-powered they are, because some weeks they just won't. Sometimes teams just don't. That happens with every single franchise. So This defense has to be on their game. And again, kind of leads right into the keys to victory I have here, Sam. Number 1, go Russell Bo Nix early. Get him worked up and uncomfortable. Make sure that he does not feel at home back there. It's something that we kind of talked about last week with Jameis Winston, and the Ravens didn't take advantage of his mistakes and ended up, obviously, came back to bite him. Number 2, just don't get cute with stuff. We saw it in week 8. I mean, the 4th and 1 to Derrick Henry, 3rd and 1 to Charlie Kohler. You know, they tried to run a couple of tight end sweeps. Isaiah Likely broke like 18 million tackles on one to gain 2 yards. So just don't get cute. And then finally, capitalize on the mistakes this time. I'm sure Bo Nix will have a couple of turnover-worthy throws in this game. We know the defensive backs, Sam, are on the jugs machine. They've been working hard, making sure they're not going to drop any more interceptions, hopefully. You got to be able to capitalize on the mistakes that Bo Nix could present on Sunday. Do you have anything else that you're looking out for?
Protect your quarterback. I mean, too often I saw Lamar Jackson running and trying to extend plays because the interior of the line were unable to block for him. So protect your quarterback in this game. Definitely understand that the defense of the Broncos is stout and they're able to do different things to get you off your game. So protect your quarterback and hope that Lamar Jackson can put up 30 points, because even though Bo Nix is Bo Nix, and I don't think he's even in the same caliber as Winston as of yet, he still has the potential to put up points on the board, at least in the later games. I think the last 2 games he's been able to string some things together. So don't count out Bo Nix. I know he's a rookie and the Ravens do well against rookies, but I think you're asking a lot for this offense to put up 30 points and for you to not show out. So I think the Ravens DBs need to get on track and for the offensive line to really block for their quarterback.
This can be a get-back game for both units, offensively and defensively. You mentioned the offensive line. I completely agree with you. It certainly struggled with Cleveland's physicality on Sunday. And then for defense, obviously, just like you're not facing Pat Mahomes. You're not facing Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, all the guys you faced early in the season. That gauntlet is done. Now you have an opportunity to kind of string some performances together. And if you can't do it against Denver, I mean, I don't know where it's going to come from. Like,
exactly.
This kind of has to be the game that you do that. And so speaking of players to watch here, you mentioned the O-line. Daniel Falele, rough go of it on Sunday against Cleveland, hoping he's able to bounce back in this one. I mean, I think everybody's watching Marcus Williams. I mean, whether he plays or not, I think he's one of the big storylines in this game. He's my number 2. And then Kyle Hamilton. I have no doubt that Kyle Hamilton will bounce back. He was certainly beat up after the fact that he dropped that interception. You could see it on his face on the sideline whenever the camera panned over to him. We saw Kyle go through some adversity early during his rookie season in that week 2 game against Miami, Sam, when, again, everybody was talking about that Mike McDonald game, and Mike McDonald screwed up a bunch in that game. Well, Kyle had a couple of blown coverages in that game. Then he came back in week 3 the next week and had the game-winning forced fumble on none other than Ravens legend Nelson Aguilar. So for Kyle, I think it's a bounce-back game for him, most definitely. But is there anybody else you're looking out for in this one?
Man, those are some 3 really good key players. I think Daniel Falele needs to have a bounce-back game. I think Roger Rosengarten also struggled a little bit. In fact, the last 2 games, he really had a bit of a struggle. So I think he might be dealing with an injury a little bit that he's fighting through, but I think he needs to play well as well. To your point, Marcus Williams and Kyle Hamilton. I don't really fault Kyle Hamilton. I know it's a bad drop in his season, but he's played lights out. I think he's played very well, especially the later half of the games that they've played so far. So I think Kyle Hamilton is due for a bounce-back game. I think that DB room is angry. There are, with the Marcus Williams situation, questions about whether or not they're the same team as they were last year. I think it's starting to see some fire in them. You saw, at least I heard that after practice, they're in the outside doing the jugs, getting the catches together, making sure they're able to hang on to the football. So this team is very prideful. They definitely want to show out, and I think this is an opportunity for them to do so. We'll see. But those key players for sure need to make sure they perform well if the Ravens are to come out with a victory.
Yep, have to. And again, we see this all the time, Sam. Obviously, it's more so on the offensive side of the ball. We hear about it, but drops are contagious. I mean, we certainly saw it with Baltimore on the offensive side of the ball. Both you want to go to last year's game with Pittsburgh or this game against Cleveland. Like, it's contagious. And so defensively, one guy drops a pick, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, shoot, I hope that doesn't happen to me. And then it happens to you, and you're like, oh, wait. Like, it is contagious. So that goes the other way, too, which if a guy makes a big play, then maybe you go out there and make a big play. So both ways it works, but hopefully it works in Baltimore's favor on the positive side. When we look at final score, Sam, I'm going to give it to the Ravens. I'm going to say they win 24-20. I'm with you. Obviously, you mentioned it's 9.5. Ravens are the favorites over on FanDuel right now. I don't trust that whatsoever. I think this is going to be a close, tightly contested game. Defensive, and I say that with hope that it will be defensive for both the Broncos and the Ravens, not just the Broncos. But I'm going to go 24-20 in this one. How do you have it playing out?
I'm leaning towards the Broncos. I'm very nervous about the interior line of the defense. They've got a lot of guys banged up. How is Lamar Jackson going to play? What's the head space of these safeties right now with Marcus Williams potentially not playing again. I mean, it's very difficult. I'm leaning towards the Broncos, but give me the Ravens. I think that this is a bounce back game for the Ravens. I think the Ravens win this 27-24. I don't think they win by 9.5 or 10 points or whatever. I think it's going to be one of those games that comes down to a Justin Tucker field goal. But I like the headspace of the Ravens this past couple of games. Matchup wise, the Broncos match very well with them, but I don't know if I trust a rookie quarterback to come into M&T Bank Stadium and win. Give me the Ravens to win.
I love that. I love how you were going, all right, I'm going to go Bro. No, I'm going with the Ravens. I'm going with the Ravens.
Pat McAfee style.
Yeah, let's go. I love it. So, hey, the Ravens actually, this is not a must-win game in terms of like they make or miss the playoffs with it, but 4 AFC losses through 9 weeks would be pretty devastating when it comes to playoff seeding and trying to get whether it be a spot. Although at this point, Sam, I feel like people would rather just take the wild card and be the underdogs as opposed to the 1 seed after everything that we've seen from this team as the 1 seed. But appreciate you, Sam. Thank you for hopping on as always. And as always, tell people where they can find you and what you're working on, especially with Ravens Talk, obviously.
Oh, yeah. So you can find me on YouTube at Ravens Talk Podcast. We hit over 1,000 subscribers, not as much as the 9,000 with you guys, but, we're rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
We're also on Instagram at Ravens Talk Podcast. We got about over 36,000 over there, but, I still want to get those subscribers at YouTube. So if you're a fan of the Ravens, definitely follow us on YouTube. You can also find us on Apple Podcast and Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts.
Be sure, hit that subscribe button over there for Sam. Check out his work over there. He does great work. And again, his film analysis, second to none. He does great work with that. So links to Sam's work, again, in the description down below. Sam, appreciate you as always. And thank you to everybody who tuned in today to Locked On Ravens. I'm sure we'll be talking with some bonus episodes this weekend, especially with Lamar Jackson's status so up in the air. So we'll probably have to give an update on that. So be sure to be on the lookout for some bonus episodes on the way out. Be sure to hit like and subscribe on YouTube. And you can follow along and subscribe in audio form. And I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.